Good day. Welcome to another lesson on our Entrepreneurship Master Program. Today we are looking at how to manage stakeholders. This skills program is about managing stakeholders for a business. Remember, a business is not operating in isolation. You have key stakeholders that business depend on them, or they are an ecosystem that you are operating within. So this skills program is looking at how do you manage these stakeholders so that you build a successful business. And today's module, we are looking at how to identify the stakeholders. You need to know who are your stakeholders, because different sectors have different stakeholders, and there's some stakeholders who are more important than the others. So as a business, you should be able to identify who are your stakeholders. So today, we want to focus on identifying stakeholders, and then as we continue with this skills program, we'll go into how you identify their requirements, and then we'll also go into how you communicate with them, and then how you engage, how do you resolve conflicts, if there are any conflicts with your stakeholders. And the question is, who are your stakeholders? Or what is, when people are referring to stakeholders in a business settings, who are they? Because it's important for you to understand the term stakeholders. So stakeholders basically are people who have interest in your business. There might be people who want to see your business fail, but most of the time are people who want to see your business succeed, because if your business succeed, they also benefit. So those are the what you call stakeholders, are people that if you manage them properly, you might leverage and get advantage from them and get the benefit from your stakeholders can provide, because there are a lot of benefits from different stakeholders. Maybe just to first identify who can be a stakeholder in your business and why are they stakeholders. Why should you consider them stakeholders in your business? So maybe the first one, the customer side. They are stakeholders. They have interest in the success of your business, but generally they are not included in stakeholder management, because customers are very special stakeholders. So they are generally dealt with under the marketing topic, customer service and all that, because they are key stakeholders and they are special. They need to be treated special. You can't put them together in the same pot with other stakeholders like Landlord and all that. So customers are stakeholders, but we're not going to deal with them under how you manage stakeholders, because customers are special. You are building the business to service your customers. Without customers, you don't have a business. And they are key stakeholders, but because of their importance and how critical they are to your business, customers are dealt separately under marketing and customer relationship, building customer relationship and customer management and all that. So they have a separate skills program that we're looking at under this entrepreneurship program, where we're looking at how you access the market. And then accessing the market, we break down your type of customers and government, corporate, individuals, export market. And then we go deeper in analyzing how you interact with those, how you service those, how you manage the relationship, and how do you access them. So customers, you're not going to deal with them under the topic of how you manage stakeholders, because we deal with them under how you access the market and customer service. So that's where we're dealing with the customers as stakeholders. So in this topic, or in this skills program, we're dealing with other stakeholders. They are important, but they're not as critical as your customers. So we're dealing with them separately in this pot we call how to manage your stakeholders. So now the module today is to identify the stakeholders, and we'll just go through the process of how to identify your stakeholders and why they are your stakeholders and all that. And then in the next module, we're going to look at their requirements, and then how do you meet their requirement. So the first one, as I said, that the critical one is in terms of stakeholders, we're identifying your key stakeholders are your customers. And then, but we're not going to go into how you manage them here because we have looked at it under the marketing section. The second one is into your stakeholders are your employees. And then also, we're not going to deal much with them here because we have a separate section as well where we're dealing with how do you build a learning organization. So under how you build learning organization, we look at the employees as your stakeholders in terms of how you manage them, how do you develop them, how do you evaluate them, how do you measure performance and all that. So in terms of managing your customers, it's dealt with under access to market. The second stakeholder, which are also critical stakeholders, are your employees, are also dealt with under how do you build a learning organization, because these two are very critical, because without employees you can't provide your services, or you can't sell your goods, whatever the business that you're in. You need your employees, and then you also need your customers, and those are the main stakeholders that you need to spend most of your time engaging with. You need to spend time building capacity or competency in the business, meaning training and developing your employees. And secondly, you need to spend time with your customers, which are building customers, increasing your sales, increasing your revenue, or the quality of the revenue that you do. So you need to spend time with your customers. That's why these two have their separate or specific section in this program, so that you focus and you deal with them in their section. And then now we've removed two stakeholders that we're dealing with them on a separate or in a different under different topics. Now when I look at other stakeholders within the business, okay, maybe it's not in order of importance. It's just now these ones I've removed the critical ones, which are your customers and your employees. So we're looking at the other stakeholders that you need to be able to identify, and you need to develop a plan on how you're going to deal with them, because it's important for entrepreneurs to deal with stakeholders. You mustn't ignore your stakeholders, because if you don't manage your stakeholders, you're running a risk of your business failing. Because even though I said those two are critical, it doesn't mean the other stakeholders are important. Remember, they're not equally important, but they are very, very important. Because for example, one of the key stakeholders is your landlord. Remember, you can't operate without your premises. So you need to make sure that you build a good relationship with your landlord. You understand what the landlord is expecting from you. Most of the time, it's just to make sure that you look after their property and you pay them on time. That's the main requirement of the landlord. But the landlord is if you don't own your property, of course, it's one of your key stakeholders, because without the premises, you can't produce or you can't operate. You need premises to operate. So the landlord offer you a space to operate. And so if you don't have a good relationship with your landlord, it might make it difficult for your business to operate, because sometimes maybe he might not be fixing stuff in time. You might find that maybe you have water leakage or whatever it is, then they don't come, or you have a plumbing problem, they don't come on time, or they don't fix it, they take long, and that will affect your customer service. And you might find that maybe the electricity, they're not paying their municipal levies, and the municipality can come and close your lights or your water, and then that will negatively affect your business on that side. And then also you might run into cash flow problems where you are not able to pay your rent on time and all that. So if you don't have a good relationship with your landlord, you might not be able to negotiate maybe payment terms and all those. Ask your landlord to give you maybe grace periods and all those things. So you need to make sure that you build a good relationship with your landlord as a first stakeholder that you're looking at. And then as well as maybe on the renewals and all those things. If you don't have a good relationship, maybe the rental increases, they can go crazy. But if you have a good relationship, you might be able to negotiate with your landlord in terms of the rental increases and all those things. Or sometimes you might need special things, or maybe you might need a concession to say, I know that I only have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 parking bays. Can I have an extra one, or whatever the needs might be? So if you're not building a good relationship with your landlord, that can have a negative impact on your business. So you need to make sure that if you are renting, a landlord will be one of your key stakeholders that you need to make sure that you manage or you build a good relationship with. And then we're going to go through in terms of identifying their requirements, and then putting together a plan to say, how do you deal with the landlord to make sure that they are always happy with you, to make sure that you always have a good relationship with them. And then also in terms of how you communicate, how should you update your landlord about your business performance and all those things. So that's that on the landlord side. If you are renting, then the landlord become one of your key stakeholder, or one of your key stakeholders. Okay, so you need to make sure that you have a plan, but we'll go into detail in terms of how you develop a communication plan and engagement plan with your landlord. And then that's one. And then the second one, okay, I'll just touch on the key stakeholders. Obviously, different businesses have different stakeholders. So you need to make sure that as an entrepreneur, you identify your key stakeholders and you use the base that we are providing you now, and then so that you can manage your stakeholder. And okay, before I go deeper into the lesson, remember on Super Dealmaker, we have a how to manage your stakeholder platform, where you can go in and develop your project plan or your stakeholder management plan to make sure that you identify it. It helps you. It's automated process. It helps you to identify your stakeholders, develop a plan, stakeholder management plan, and identify activities that you need to do. Maybe if it's regular meeting, regular emails, whatever that you decide you need to do, then it diarizes that for you and it sends it to your calendar so that you'll be able to know when you're supposed to do certain things. So that is our how to manage stakeholders, a platform. It helps you to manage your stakeholders. You go in, you log in, and then you subscribe to that platform, and that platform you'll be able to develop your stakeholder management plan. And from the stakeholder management plan, it has what you call a scheduler. So it schedules activities that you're supposed to do, and it sends them to your calendar. So you want to have in your calendar, you want to have the activities that you need to do to manage your stakeholder. So that's on the Super Dealmaker. So I just had to put it out there so that you know we provide you with tools to make your entrepreneurship or your business management journey easier, and it will remove all other. Okay, you'll always have challenges with entrepreneurship, but with this Super Dealmaker platform, we're trying to make it easier for you. We remove other barriers or challenges that you might have. So we have identified key platforms that you will need as an entrepreneur. So you just go on Super Dealmaker, make sure that you familiarize yourself with the platform and identify the tools that maybe they might be necessary for you. Then you use those tools to manage your business. Okay. Now, back to identifying stakeholders. We spoke about the landlord. Now, the second key stakeholder, remember, these are not, it depends on your business, so they're not in order of any of importance. The second one that we're going to look at is your suppliers. And then remember as well, with your suppliers, we have how to manage your supply chain processes. We have a special module for that. So we are dealing with how you deal with your suppliers in that module, so that you can improve. Because remember, with business, you make money from your supply chain. That's where the money is made or lost. And it depends how efficient your supply chain is. That will decide how profitable your business is. So it depends. Some businesses have a heavy supply chain processes, like a manufacturing concern. The supply chain is long. You need to have a relationship with your raw material suppliers, logistics. You need to have a relationship with the manufacturing process where you are producing stuff. You need to have a relationship with your customers. So your supply chain in that case is long. And by the other businesses, like let's say consulting, there is no factory, just have offices, and then the people that are important in that supply chain are your customers. So, but for suppliers, we have a portion that looks after how you buy, how you're supposed to buy, not necessarily how you should do it, but it gives you guidance in terms of how you buy certain things. So if you go to our supply chain, how to manage supply chain, that module or that skills program will give you a detail in terms of how you can improve your supply chain processes. But now, under stakeholder management, we're only looking at how you manage the relationship with your suppliers. Okay, as stakeholders, we're not looking at the whole value chain. In how you manage your supply chain processes, we've looked at the whole value chain. So you go in to that skills program, then you have the material, you have videos there. You can learn more about how you improve your supply chain processes. Okay, so now we're looking at your suppliers. Suppliers are very, very important because, as I said, in the supply chain process, how you source your product, the price that you pay, the logistics that are involved in terms of bringing the product that you're buying from your suppliers into the plant or into the production, and the margins at the end of the day. Those things are related, and many businesses struggle to operate efficiently because of there are weaknesses in their supply chain process. And one of the things that one of the key factors that contributes to this inefficiency is the relationship that businesses or the company or the organization has with suppliers. So when it comes to suppliers, how do you manage your suppliers? First, you need to understand who are the players in your supply chain process. Who are your suppliers? Okay, and this is mainly for retailers, wholesalers, manufacturers, producers, the businesses that produce something, not the businesses that are supplying services. Because sometimes with the businesses that are supplying services, they don't have major suppliers, or the suppliers, they buy stationery, basic things that you get from a retail store somewhere in the mall. So those type of businesses, managing their suppliers is not that critical because it doesn't change the price of bread. But if you are in farming, if you are in manufacturing, if you are in retail, those type of sectors, then your suppliers become very, very important. They become critical for your business to be profitable. So you need to build a good relationship with your suppliers. And then that's why they become key stakeholders. So you need to have a plan on how you're going to manage your suppliers, because if you don't have a good relationship, they might not give you a good discount. And if you don't get good discount, it filters through. Your final product might be expensive. And if your final product is expensive, then you are not competitive. But if you manage your suppliers, you understand your suppliers, you identify who are the suppliers in the space that you are in, you will be able to find good prices. You will be able to negotiate terms. You will be able to make arrangement with your suppliers in terms of the delivery and all those things. Because sometimes your business or your business model might be unique in a way that it doesn't fit right into that supplier's supply chain process. So you might need them to deliver, instead of delivering once a month, you might want them to deliver weekly. It might be something that they don't generally do, but because of your business model requires them to, or requires supply on a weekly basis, then you might be able to build that relationship. So what I'm saying is, managing your suppliers, it becomes very, very, very important. And maybe just to also give an example with McDonald's. I know we've discussed this in the case study. What Ray did when he took over McDonald's, the McDonald's brothers had a good relationship with their suppliers. But remember, they were only operating one location. So they managed, because their suppliers were localized and local. They had local suppliers, so it was easier for them to manage the relationship. I'm not saying that Ray necessarily changed anything, but it's just that the McDonald's brothers, they were dealing with local suppliers. But Ray now, as he was expanding the McDonald's brand across the US, he had to build solid relationship with the suppliers. He even went to an extent of negotiating with suppliers to make sure that they produce only for McDonald's. So the suppliers, at first, remember, he was still building, but he built such a very good relationship with those suppliers to an extent that he managed to convince them to say, look, we're building a growing brand, and we want our things in a certain way. So can you please stop supplying, or set up an operation that will specifically supply McDonald's only? And he managed to, because Ray was a salesman, he managed to sell the idea to your bun suppliers, your patty suppliers, your potato suppliers. He managed to convince those, because remember, initially McDonald's had like your three basic products, which are your chips, your burger, and your drink. So they had a good relationship with the a soft drink supplier, and then they built a good relationship with the patty or the meat supplier and the bun suppliers, and then they build a good relationship with the potato suppliers, where these people, they ultimately build an operation or a factory specifically to supply McDonald's. And once these people built those factories, McDonald's was involved in making sure that the suppliers' processes complement McDonald's operation. So they will make sure that even like the example that I normally give is one with the bun supplier. Initially, the bun suppliers were supplying McDonald's the buns that were cut not fully in half, but they cut it up to a certain point and they leave the other half still attached. But that now, it meant that the McDonald's crew or McDonald's employee, they have, when it gets to the store, they have to take time and to cut the bun through so that it's in 2 pieces so that they can load whatever that they load in between and put the one on top. So because of the good relationship, Ray went and negotiated with the bun suppliers to say, look, this thing is taking whatever, one bun is taking us a minute, whatever, to cut through, or seconds, to cut it fully in half. And that cost is costing us money. Is it possible for you guys in the production process to set up your machine to make sure that you cut our buns in half fully, don't leave anything, so that they come as two? Then the supplier obliged, and we did that for McDonald's, and that saved McDonald's a lot of time, because now they were not even worried. When the bun comes in, it's cut already into two. There's no one who has to sit there and cut it in half to make sure that it's ready. So it saves McDonald's time. But on the other side, the supplier agreed to do that because McDonald's was giving them a lot of business. So now, for them, it was just to change the setting in their processes to produce the buns that are fully cut, and that now saved McDonald's a lot of money. Because remember, they were selling a 15-cent burger at the time, so they were not. It was not a big margin business, but they were reliant on volume. And because the bun, when it was coming still attached, and somebody still had to cut it. So those few seconds, they contribute, because if you are mass producing, you need to make sure that your operation is efficient. You don't waste time. You limit the movement. Even, you remember when the McDonald's brothers were designing their shop, they made sure that there is limited movement even in the store. You set up your operation in a way that is so efficient that you don't waste steps, or you don't waste time, you don't waste a minute in your operation process. Similarly, if you build a good relationship with your suppliers, then you will be able to influence how they design the raw materials that you are going to use, or how they're supposed to package them, and then how they're supposed to deliver them to you. So that will help you in building an efficient operation, because it might be little margins to say, in terms of the packaging that they are using, it might not be conducive to your operation. So what you need to do is engage your suppliers as your stakeholders to see what can we do to improve our supply chain, so that we don't waste time on things that are not important. Let's make it so efficient that when your stuff comes to my factory, then I can easily be able to use it. Well, that's on the product development side. But if you have a good relationship with the supplier as well, you will be able to negotiate terms. Remember, if you are running a business, right? If you are buying on credit and someone else is buying on cash, then becomes two different business models altogether. Because buying on cash, you are taking cash out of your business and you're paying it to the supplier. But if you are buying on credit, then that becomes a totally different ball game altogether. So buying on credit means that your supplier will be funding you. Okay, because if you are buying on cash, as I said, you take money, right? You give it to the supplier. The supplier supplies you with the goods, whatever the goods that you're buying from the supplier. But if you buy on credit and you pay them after 30, let's say they give you a 30 days account. So you buy, let's say maybe you're a bakery. You are able to buy flour on 30 days account. So basically they're giving you flour for free. And you go and produce the bread, and you go sell the bread. And you make the money, right? And then you go pay them and then you take another flour for free. And then, so basically they are funding you, your business. They're giving you what we call working capital in finance. So businesses that buy on credit, they are able to leverage that because the return that you are making from the money that they are borrowing you money for 30 days. So that's why it becomes important as a business to negotiate terms with your suppliers, because they are funding you literally. They're literally funding you. So don't pride yourself that you buy cash on delivery, whatever. That's not a good, it's a savvy business strategy. Even if you're not necessarily converting your raw material within 30 days. But remember, if somebody gives you money for 30 days, even if you put it in the bank account and you get 1% per month. If it's 100,000, then the 1% is 1,000 rand that you made as a business by the mere fact that somebody is willing to sell goods to you on credit. So when you're building the relationship with the suppliers, make sure that you look at these simple things, like building the relationship where your supplier will be able to, or should be willing to provide you with credit, because that goes a long way. That 1%. I mean, if if I'm saying it's 100,000 and you're making 1% per month, even if you put it in the bank, then it's 1,000 rand. But if you are making 1 million, then it becomes 10,000 rand. Free money that is sitting there, but you might not have access to it if you don't build good relationship with your suppliers. Even with the delivery, if you don't have a good relationship with your suppliers, one, the supplier might supply you with bulk purchase, where you're paying 100,000 and the stuff, you have to put them in your warehouse. They sit there for a month. You're going to process them after a month. So that means you took 100,000, you gave it to your supplier, and the stock is sitting in your warehouse where it's not generating you money. So the money, you just took 100,000 and put it in the storeroom. Instead of negotiating and building good relationship with your stakeholder, which is your supplier in this case, where they can supply you maybe, 10,000 every week. You don't have to put that large lump sum in the storeroom where it's not sweating, it's not you're not using it productively. So when it comes to stakeholder management, it sounds like small things, but that's where the margins are. If you improve, let's say with the landlord, you negotiated maybe 5% less escalating rental increase. With your suppliers, you negotiated that they provide you with goods and services on credit, and then they supply you regularly instead of in bulk and all those things, and you are able to negotiate 10% discount on the goods that you are selling. When it comes to the bottom line, it will make a significant impact. Even if maybe you don't want it on the bottom line, but you are an entrepreneur, obviously you'll want it to make a difference to your bottom line. You might want to give your customers best service or best price. To do that, you need to make sure that, one, you negotiate good terms with your suppliers. You negotiate good delivery terms in terms of the frequency, the quantities, the discounts that they give you, the account, the 30-day account or whatever, 60-day account. Then it will make a difference to your bottom line, or make a difference to the price point that you sell to your customers with, and that will make you more competitive. That's where stakeholder management comes in. It's very important, but sometimes entrepreneurs ignore this part in their business. They focus on other things. They forget to manage the stakeholders, making sure that they don't leave a cent lying without without utilizing it. And this, it also, I remember, I don't know if now they're still using the same model, but it also goes with Pick n Pay. What Pick n Pay used to do, I don't know if they still do it now, they pay their suppliers in, was it 60 days or 90 days? Something like that. Let's say 60 days. Let's be conservative. They pay you 60 days. So what happens is you come, you bring your stock into Pick n Pay, right? You put it there. And once they sell the stock, they're not going to pay you immediately. They pay you after 30 days. No, after 60 days. Remember, 60 days is a long time. And they do that with all their suppliers. So basically their model is the suppliers are the ones that are funding the operations. Because I think the average stock holding for a retail store is 90 days. So Pick n Pay is not investing in the stock that's, or it was not, I don't know now. It was not investing in the stock that's sitting there. I mean, if you look at maybe Pick n Pay, you might find that an average Pick n Pay, you find that there's a stock of maybe 5 to 10 million sitting there. And that needs to be funded. But in the Pick n Pay instance, that 10 million, whatever, 5 or 10 million, is not funded by Pick n Pay. It's funded by the suppliers. The suppliers bring their goods and services, they put them in the store, and Pick n Pay will sell the goods on their behalf and only pay them after 60 days or 90 days. But I suspect it's 90 days. But let's say they pay them after 60 days. So they've turned the money, let's say, 10 million. If they turn over, the store is turning 10 million per month. So they'll take the money, let's say they put it in the bank account. If they don't open new stores, whatever. Instead of paying it back, they put it in the bank account. Let's say the interest rate is 1% per month. Then they're making a lot of money from the 10 million that they've made. It will be 100,000 that they are making just by keeping the money in their bank account instead of paying it back to the suppliers. But they were not putting it. I'm not generally putting it in the bank account. They're using it to buy more stock for the shops and all that. So they're turning it over. So by the time the money goes back to the supplier, maybe Pick n Pay would have turned it maybe 3 times. And if they're making 30%, because the retail margins is about 30%. So for that 10 million, they'll make 30% on it, which is 3 million, before they give it back to you. Meaning, you give them the stock, they sell it, they get the money, they can maybe buy another stock and then sell it, make 30% gross profit, but maybe the net profit might be around 10% or 12%. Then they make 12%. Let's talk bottom line. They make 12% on the 10 million, which is 1.2 before they pay you back. So you basically funded the suppliers. We're basically funding the Pick n Pay's operation, and which is a brilliant model. I guess it's a win-win because Pick n Pay is giving you access to market to sell your stuff, and then you are giving them the funding. So, which is it's a very good model. So this is now, I'm telling you this to show you how important it is for you to manage your relationship with your stakeholders. Because if you manage that relationship, then you get free funding. You can open as many stores as you want. You can service your infrastructure debts and all those things using the money suppliers are paying you or are giving it to you. Because if they give you stock on credit, then they're giving you money. So if you're opening a spaza shop, for argument's sake, you set up the building, then let's say you negotiate with your suppliers to say, I'll pay you 30 days or 90 days, whatever that you negotiate. So they give you stock. Instead of you spending, let's say, 100,000, 200,000 to fill up your spaza shop, your suppliers put the stock in there, and they say, no, you pay us at the end of the month. So what you have to do is, the stock is in, you can sell that stock and go back to your supplier, buy again, sell the stock, buy again, sell the stock. By the time the month end comes, you have turned over that money, let's say 3 times. Okay, I'm a little bit ambitious, but let's say you turned it over 3 times. That means if you are making, let's say your net profit margin is 15%. So you made 15% 3 times before you paid back the original amount to your supplier. So then as you grow, then you will be generating money just from the funding that your supplier is giving you without you taking more. You could have, if you didn't negotiate your suppliers provide you your goods and services on credit, then you would have required to go to the bank to go and borrow 200,000 so that you can go buy from your suppliers. Yes, sometimes it's not possible, but where is possible, make sure that you negotiate. Make sure that you build relationship. Okay, that was on your suppliers as stakeholders. That I was just showing you how important it is for you to identify who are your suppliers and manage the relationship, because there are benefits that you can get from managing your suppliers. And as I said, I continually say that money is made in your supply chain process. If you're not managing that supply chain process, you will lose a lot of money, or you will leave margins on the table. The next stakeholder that we're going to look at is your community, because as a business, depending on where you operate from, the community around you will have influence on your business. Obviously, some they have call it interest in the success of the business, and some they might have other ideas, like depending on the environment. You've got certain elements in communities where maybe they are criminals, it might not be safe, there might be break-ins and all that on the negative side. But on the positive side, because you are bringing in business in the community, so the community's interest might be that you will be creating jobs and all that. So you need to be able to manage the relationship that your business and you as an entrepreneur you have with the community that you are operating in. And there are BE codes that encourage contribution, donations, and community development. That's now on the compliance side. That forces business to contribute to community. So you find that you should donate about 1% of your net profit towards community development. You must contribute towards uplifting the community that you're operating in. It's a requirement from our BBB codes. As a business, you need to make sure that you do your part as a corporate citizen. That's now on the compliance side, where you are forced to do community development or community contribution. But as a business, when we're looking at the community as from the stakeholder management perspective, you must try and build a good relationship with the community, so that as a business, you will need support from the community. You might not be producing goods and services that are consumed within your community, but you need support in terms of, you might look in terms of employment, you might need people from the community in terms of the support. Like sometimes there are uprising in communities, there are strikes and all that. If you don't have a good relationship with community, when there are call it protest and all that, the community might break into your business, or they might burn it down, or they might make it impossible for you to continue operating within that community. So without building a good relationship, you might be putting your business at risk, because if the community don't like you, they don't like your business, they don't like what you're doing, then they might not support your business when it's required or when it's needed. And that now will have negative impact on the business. So you need to make sure that you have a way that you engage, you inform, you participate in community activities, so that the communities around you, they feel that you are part of the community, you are making a difference, you are contributing. And as a result, they will be able to support your business. That's on the community side of things. But remember, community politics, sometimes they can be a little bit dicey. You might not know who you are dealing with. Just make sure that you are dealing with the right people within the community, because sometimes you find there are different factions within the community. You don't know which one is which, but most importantly, you need to avoid maybe supporting certain political parties or certain political ideologies. If you are contributing or you are donating to political parties, make sure that you do it across different party lines, so that people don't see, or the community doesn't see your business as belonging to a certain political party. Because remember, the political space is a little bit volatile, so you must avoid playing politics if you are in business and if you are within the community. So the community, they must see your business as a neutral business, so that when these political parties fighting the other, you don't get caught in the middle. You must just your focus must be running the business, not getting involved in local politics. And the other thing, as I mentioned earlier, the BE codes, they force you to contribute towards the community, but that must not be the end of it, because you need to be a good citizen. As entrepreneurs, we know that we are living in poor communities. Our communities are struggling. So making a contribution towards maybe sports and certain things, donating to education, developing youth in the communities, those are certain activities that you can do in addition to the contribution that maybe you are forced by the BE codes to do. So you must, take it as a corporate citizen, be good, do good, contribute towards community development, and as a result, this community will support your business. So that's on the community side of stakeholder management. Make sure that you have a plan that you can implement. You have a way of communicating with them, and you have a way of identifying which stakeholders are key in your local community environment. Okay, now we're going into looking at the funders or the banks as one of your stakeholders, depending on how you have funded the bank. So we've looked at the customers. We explain how you deal with customers, that you need to go to our access to market to understand how you manage customers as stakeholders. We've mentioned that for employees, we have how to develop a learning organization. You need to go to that module to see how you manage the employees as stakeholders. We looked at the landlord, how you build that relationship, how you manage the landlord as a stakeholder. We looked at suppliers. We looked at the community. Now we're going to look at your funders or investors. Okay, it depends. It depends on how you funded your business. Some business, you might have bootstrapped your business, so you're not owing anyone anything. So then you don't have worries of dealing with your funders in terms of reporting and all those things. So the funders as stakeholders, even though you have bootstrapped your business or you funded your business from your own pocket, you still have to build a good relationship with your bank, so that you don't know at some point as your business grow, you will need funding. And as I normally say, unless if you're a bank, you're a standard bank or whatever, you might not need funding. But as you're building your business, as your business grow, you will need funding. Okay, some entrepreneurs feel they don't need funding, but the most efficient way to fund your business is a combination of the equity and the loan. So even if you can bootstrap your business, but remember, that money is a little bit expensive, because you can use it for other things and go to the bank, borrow money that you can pay maybe at whatever, prime, whatever. So it's still cheaper while you are taking the equity out or you are taking the dividend out of the business. So you need to make sure that you understand the funding structure of your business. And then to do that is you need to go back to the module that we've done in terms of access to funding. There we are breaking down in how you're supposed to structure your business finance, where you need to source your finance, and how to optimize your funding structure. But on this one, we're just looking at the funding institutions as stakeholders. We're not going in detail in terms of how you fund, you structure your business. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, then to go into the module how to finance your business, then you'll see different structures, how you optimize the funding structure of your business. So now, looking at the funding institutions as stakeholders, remember, you need to build the relationship. As I said, that you, at some point, somewhere, as you grow your business, you will need additional funding. You need funding here and there. So what you need to do, even if you funded your business from your own pocket, but make sure that you build a relationship with your banker. That's the first stakeholder that you need to build into a relationship with. Meaning, you need to understand what are the requirements in terms of funding their businesses. What do they look at when they assess businesses, so that by the time come where you need funding, it's not when you start preparing to the documents that they need. You must be working towards making sure that you qualify to access funding from your bank, the bank that you transact with. So you must always keep in touch, understand where you are, their rating, the things that they are looking for them to be able to fund you, so that you always maintain a good relationship with your banker, so that when you need them, they will be there for you. So you need to make sure that you do the right things with your banker. If you have bootstrapped your business, doesn't mean you will not, at some point in time, you will never need a bank. You will, as you grow your business. We're assuming that the intention is to build a sustainable business. So as your business grow, then the bank becomes more important, because they are the ones that will fund your business going forward. Now, okay, that's for those who bootstrapped their business, who funded their businesses from their own pocket. And the other entrepreneurs that you applied for funding from a funding institution. It could be a bank, it could be a developmental institution, but you have a loan that you need to service. First thing, okay, the most important thing is to make sure that you pay the loan the way you're supposed to, based on the funding agreement or based on the loan agreement. And sometimes things happen in business. You will not always perform at the level that you thought you were. And okay, my experience with entrepreneurs is that when things are not going the way they thought they were, or when they are struggling to service the loan or to repay back the loan, then they start avoiding talking to the bank or the funding institution. So, and that's the biggest mistake, because without you building that good relationship and bringing your funders along, if you are struggling, you request a meeting and you go and explain. I'm facing 1, 2, 3, 4 challenges. And you'll never know. Most funding institutions, they have programs where maybe they might be able to help you with certain things. They have enterprise development component to their funding instruments. So you running away, you might be running away from an opportunity to be assisted to turn around your business, because you know you owe them, because you didn't pay them. Instead of talking to them, you avoid their calls, you don't do what you're supposed to do, and you get into trouble. And you might end up being sued or being liquidated because you didn't do the things that you're supposed to do. So what you need to do, you need to make sure that you maintain good relationship with your funding institution. Make sure that you always meet they call them covenants. There are certain things that your business needs to achieve, month on month or quarterly or yearly. If you miss those covenants, make sure that you inform your bank to say, I'm having these challenges, what can you do? Or not your bank necessarily, your funder. I'm having these challenges, what can we do for us to correct this? Or what can we do maybe to restructure the facility? What options do I have? Then your investor, because they have interest in your business succeeding so that they can fully recover their money, the money that they funded you, they will be willing, okay, most of the time, no, maybe not all the time, but most of the time they will be willing to assist you to turn around or to restructure or to find a solution for your business in terms of if you are struggling. So what I'm saying is build a very good relationship with your bank, build a good relationship with your funders, so that if you are in trouble, or if you need help, you might not be in trouble, you might want to be looking to expand, then they will be able to assist you. Even your existing funders, if you're struggling and you don't communicate, you might turn around your business on your own, but because of the relationship will be broken, you might be looking for maybe opportunity to expand, or you get a business opportunity that needs maybe a bridging finance. But because now the relationship is broken between you and your funder, then you can't go back to them to ask them for the bridging finance so that you can take maybe you can take that opportunity that has presented itself, but you don't have the funding to fund it. So building that relationship is not only about paying back the loan that you're owing, is to make sure that you have a good relationship with your funder, so that if you're in trouble, you are able to talk to them, they might help you, or they will understand, or they might restructure your facility. As well, as you grow as a business, if you have a good relationship, then it will make it easy for you to go back to them to say, I need to expand my business and I need funding. Can you please assist? So you need to have a plan. How are you going to manage the relationship? You need to make sure that you stay in constant communication with your funders. Keep them in the loop. And submit the necessary reports. Remember, with the funders, they'll generally maybe require, if you get funded, they'll say maybe submit management accounts, maybe on a quarterly basis, make sure that you don't maybe draw so much salaries. So there are those covenants or the requirements that will give it to you. Make sure that you always try, or you try by all means to meet those covenants. Don't break the covenants that they gave you, because if you break them, they can recall their loan. And if they recall their loan, they might end up in court, whatever, suing you, listing, and all those things. So to avoid you getting the trap of getting into a negative relationship with your funding institution, you need to proactively manage that relationship. It's very, very important. And as a growing or as a small business, you will need funding at some point. So if you continue burning the bridges, then you might get an opportunity to grow, but you might not be able to access the funding to do so. So on this stakeholder, make sure that you maintain good relationship, you maintain good communication, bad or good. If you are doing well, make sure that you inform them. They might be able to reduce your interest rate or whatever it is. And if you're not doing so good, then you also inform them. There might be other training or enterprise development opportunities that they can provide to you. Okay, that's on our funding and banking institutions as our stakeholders. Okay, now we're gonna look at maybe the last one, which is SARS. It's not necessarily the last stakeholder, but I'm just going through the key stakeholders that a business can have. But remember, different businesses will have different stakeholders. Sometimes you find that maybe a government institution becomes a key stakeholder, like if you have a mining license, or if maybe you are a franchisee, so the franchisor will be one of the key stakeholders that you need to manage the relationship with. And if maybe you are running a business maybe in waste management or whatever, those kind, environmental department might become your key stakeholder. So now I'm just addressing maybe the generic or general key stakeholders, but the same principle applies to your business. So you need to look at your business holistically and then see who are your key stakeholders, and make sure that you manage those relationships. Okay. The last one is that we're going to look at is SARS. Remember, SARS is the very important key stakeholder that we all don't like, because all they do is take. But remember, they say what? There are two things guaranteed in life: taxes and death. You're always going to be taxed, and you're supposed to pay your tax. Doesn't matter how much you like it or don't like it. It's legislated. You need to pay your tax. And you can see, like, we have a lot of businesses, celebrities in the media about tax coming after their assets. Remember, if you don't pay tax, or you don't pay the right tax, or if you don't pay the correct tax, they can reassess you and come back to you and come and collect. And there are many businesses that are going under because they didn't pay their tax, or they didn't pay the right amount. Remember, as entrepreneurs, as I always say, we're interested in getting the tax clearance rather than complying with the requirement or the requirements from SARS. All we're looking for is a tax clearance. Whether we are paying the right amount of tax, or if we are paying the right tax, or if we are even filing the right returns that we're supposed to be filing, it seems like most entrepreneurs or most small businesses are not interested in that. They're interested in getting their tax return. And that comes back to bite them later on. And strange enough, most people who have experienced the tax audit, because that's the most stressful thing that an entrepreneur can go through, it happens when things are no longer at the point that they were, or they are not as good as they used to be. Generally, SARS will pick up the telltale signs when, remember, if your business is doing well, you'll be submitting certain amounts, like if it's VAT or income tax, you'll be paying a certain amount. But once your business is no longer performing, you'll start paying less amount. And that's when SARS picks up to say, no, but this business used to pay so much, now it's paying less. Let's look at this business and let's do an audit to see what's happening there. And once they do that audit, remember they're doing the audit when your business is down. And once they do the audit, they find out that you're not doing the right things. You're not paying the right amount. The bill will be so high. And at the time that they do the audit, your business is not doing as well. Then that might lead to liquidation, because the assessment will be high, because it will be assessment based on the higher amount that you're doing, let's say for the last 5 years. Generally, they can't go, unless it's a serious and it's big, generally they don't go beyond 5 years. So to look at the last 5 years, look at how you've been performing, and do the audit and reassess you. It's called reassessment. And they'll give you the tax bill. And the tax bill, it might be a tax bill that at that point in time you cannot afford. So it's very, very important to make sure that you understand your tax affairs. You don't do things just to maliciously comply. You need to make sure that you have a competent, call it a tax practitioner, if you can afford, or your bookkeeper is clued up with the tax, and you do the right things. Because sometimes I say it's better if you know what you're supposed to do, but you decide not to do it, than not knowing what to do at all. Because most of the entrepreneurs that I've met that I have trouble with SARS, they say we didn't know. But remember, ignorance is not an excuse in face of the law. So you need to make sure that you are aware of the taxes that you're supposed to pay, and you are aware when you're supposed to submit the returns and all that. And if you are not clear on the tax issues, we have a video on tax in terms of the returns that you need to submit, how much it is, when you're supposed to do it. So you can watch that video on taxation, and it will give you a little bit more details in terms of the type of taxes that you need to pay or comply with or submit. But here, I'm just looking at it in terms of the tax or SARS as a stakeholder, to say, please make sure you give them what you're supposed to give them, submit what you're supposed to submit, make sure that you submit the right things. With SARS, even though they're an important stakeholder, yes, you can attend their seminars and all those, and make sure that you are always in the know what's happening with the taxes, the changes, and all those things, the things that you need to comply with. And then, based on my experience, actually, SARS is one of those few performing departments in government. They have very good, efficient systems, and they are very helpful in terms of understanding your tax and all those things. So utilize the system that they have. Make sure that you get informed. Make sure that you understand what the tax returns that you're submitting. Make sure that you submit them when you're supposed to submit them. If you do the right things, don't even have to call SARS. Actually, SARS as a stakeholder is not even interested in you. You just need to make sure that you do the right things. You don't have to phone anyone. You don't have to escalate anyone. But you just have to make sure that you do the right things. It's easy. That's the simplest stakeholder to manage. Do the right things. Make sure you pay the right amounts, and you'll have peace. You'll know that you're not worried with any tax audit. Even if the tax audit come at some point in time, obviously SARS will do the audit just to check where you are, most especially for businesses that are generating good income and they are growing. So they'll do the tax audit once in a while just to make sure that things are in order. But to manage SARS, it's simple. Just to make sure that you submit the things that you're supposed to submit when you're supposed to submit them. And make sure that you submit accurate figures to SARS, and then your SARS is managed. And this is not only for SARS, but for any other departments that require compliance. They will be clear in terms of what you need to submit, when to submit them. Make sure that you submit those compliance. I know with training, we have accreditations. We need to make sure that you renew the accreditations. We need to make sure that you have your QMS. You need to make sure that you have the assessors and moderators. So you need to make sure that you always submit the things that you need to submit to institutions that you need to comply with. If it's a mining department of mining and whatever exploration, then there's a license, the renewal. You need to submit your renewal and your environmental plans and your community development plans. Make sure that you do the right things. You submit those things when they're supposed to be submitted. Then you will have peace. You don't have to worry about these stakeholders that are more on the compliance side, that are government and all that. That's how easy it is to manage those stakeholders. Okay. So this was our lesson on stakeholder management. We've identified some stakeholders in this lesson, some stakeholders that are general or are common to many businesses. But you need to do your own analysis to see the stakeholders that are important to your business and you make sure that you have a plan, you have a plan or a project on how you're going to manage them, how you're going to communicate with them, and how, if there are any conflicts, you need to have maybe a plan in terms of how you resolve those conflicts. So in your policies and procedures, you must have a policy on stakeholder management to say these are the things that you need to do as a business. But remember, as an entrepreneur, sometimes if you don't put the systems in place, it might be you only who knows what you're supposed to do. But as the business grows, then the other people who will be taking certain responsibilities, they might not know which stakeholders to manage. But if you put it in your policy, then it will make it easier for other people as well. Even if you are not there, but they'll know which stakeholders they're supposed to manage. Okay, so that was our lesson on stakeholder management, and I thank you.